afternoon. Sound is okay? Very good, thank you. Thank you, good afternoon. Please have a seat. And we will start this Norwegian session very shortly. Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, hydrogen ammonia friends, welcome to this session, Norway pioneering low carbon and renewable hydrogen and ammonia. My name is Ivar-Jo Theien. I come from Innovation Norway, and we are the host of the Norwegian Pavilion and is organizing a strong lineup of the Norwegian delegation. So the overall ambition for this session is to tell you and give you some really good picture on what's going on in Norway in terms of maturing climate-friendly hydrogen and ammonia value chains. Throughout the next hour, you will get a keynote from Norwegian Ministry of Energy. We will have a panel perspective session with key asset owners and asset developers from the Norwegian value chain. And we will also have a sound check of the status of the global hydrogen value chains from DNV before you will get some really good pitch sessions from renewable hydrogen developers. So our purpose is to talk about the Norwegian value proposition, of course to promote it, but also elaborate on it and debate it. So welcome, and in this case it's my great pleasure to introduce the Ministry of Energy. 2 seconds, there. The State Secretary was supposed to be here today, however sickness happens now and then, so we have a great pleasure of having a replacement, Senior Advisors Hilde Gillebo from Ministry of Energy. Please listen to her. She has a very interesting international background from both board position and executive position in energy. Please, thank you, Hilde.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to have been given this opportunity to step in for Astrid Bergmål here today. Norway is known as an energy nation, and energy is in the core of our cooperation with Europe. We have been a petroleum producer for decades, exporting natural gas to Europe since 1977. An abundance of renewable resources like running water, reservoirs, blowing wind have laid the foundation for the Norwegian power system being almost 100% renewable. But as everywhere else, harvesting these energy resources represents dilemmas and conflicting interests. The energy transition is not an easy road in Norway, nor anywhere else. We must achieve large emissions reductions while safeguarding our industries and households and maintaining a secure energy supply. Let me talk about some of the steps we are taking in Norway. With the world's second largest coastline, we have ambitious plans for offshore wind. The government aims to award areas that will allow for 30 gigawatt offshore wind by 2040. Hywind Tampen, the world's first floating wind farm, is already operational. Norway has been a leader in carbon capture and storage for nearly 3 decades. For 28 years, we have safely and permanently stored CO2 under the seabed, paving the way for the Longship project. This project will capture CO2 from industrial sources and transport it for safe storage. Next year, Heidelberg Materials will begin producing cements with CO2 capture as a part of Longship. And soon, Yara Sluiskil here in the Netherlands will start to transport CO2 to the Norwegian continental shelf. Longship project is the world's first full-scale CCS project of its kind, contributing to the EU climate neutrality goal. The Norwegian government encourages more countries and companies to invest in CCS. This is necessary for CCS to achieve economies of scale and mitigate climate change cost efficiently. Now, let's discuss hydrogen. Hydrogen is one of the many tools we need in our toolbox to our path to carbon neutrality. Norway's strategic position with large renewable resources, natural gas production close to Europe, and expertise in CCS could make us well placed to play a role in the future European hydrogen market. Our goal is to contribute to developing hydrogen solutions to meet long-term climate targets. Today, plans for renewable hydrogen and ammonia production are underway in Norway. Skiga, for example, was recently awarded €81 million grant in the first auction of the Hydrogen Bank. However, achieving large-scale renewable hydrogen production requires a significant surplus of renewable power. In the short to medium term, a potential large-scale export of hydrogen from Norway to Europe will be blue hydrogen based on natural gas. What matters should be to produce sufficient volumes of hydrogen with low to zero emissions at lowest possible cost. This should be reflected in regulations and in support schemes. In the longer term, production of hydrogen could be coupled with production of renewable energy from offshore wind power from Norway. Establishing a hydrogen market is challenging and cannot be achieved by governments alone. Governments can provide policies and frameworks. Companies play a vital role in identifying sustainable opportunities and driving innovation. On behalf of the Ministry of Energy, I'm proud to see so many Norwegian companies participating in the World Hydrogen Summit. You bring know-how and a willingness to invest in facilities, technology, and equipment for this emerging energy market. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Hilde. Thank you for your perspectives and keynote. The Ministry of Energy in Norway has, over the last year, has very interesting and intensive dialogue with the German stakeholders and colleagues, discussing how we can explore and mature the hydrogen value chain at large scales. How can you make some reflections, elaborate on how you see that process and dialogue evolving?
I think we've had a very positive dialogue within the task force and with Germany. Obviously, this is a very complex project where the whole value chain needs to be implemented in once or in parallel. So you have to create the market while you also have to create the infrastructure and the production facilities. What's important for Norway is that it's industry driven. It needs to be something that industries see that is commercially viable going forward. So that's very important for the Norwegian government. And what I was also saying in the introduction was that governments have to facilitate with the regulatory framework and policies, and it needs to be the industry that pushes for the industry development.
Very good, thank you. What can we hope for? I mean, I think there's some key points there. You say that the government facilitate discussing, working on the framework. The industry has a key role in the next steps. What can we hope for over the coming years?
Well, I think that's up to all of you to answer, really, because it's the industry that needs to drive the technology improvements and implementation, the infrastructure projects. But from my point of view, I see that it is definitely a will for a hydrogen market to be established. It's something that Europe is wanting and looking for, and it's something that Norway can also support. We have our resources, natural gas and also electricity going forward, maybe. So I think it's something that we will be needing on the path to zero emissions going forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Extra hand for Hilde. Yes. And we wish the government of Norway and Germany good luck with the continuous process. And we learned just 3 weeks ago that there is progress where there was an MOU signed on the progress report and some roadmaps for demand. That is progress. And that concludes the governmental part of this session. And we will move into a dialogue talking about the stakeholders that do the real work on the ground in Norway, in Europe, and also across the globe. We will have a panel session now with 3 stakeholders, Equinor, Horisont Energi, and Yara, starting from different standpoints, will elaborate about their work and some key topics. So please Henrik, Bjørgulf, and Vibeke, come to the stage. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And the overall topic of this session is low carbon asset development. A Norwegian view is that we need to work on both what is possible and what is desired, and that balance needs to go hand in hand, both short and long term. But the key here is that Norway sees greater opportunities for volumes and infrastructure through the low carbon. So this session we will talk firstly a little bit about the work. They will give a pitch on their value proposition, and then we will talk a little bit about some cherry-picked topics, of course including renewable ambitions and opportunities. So we will start with Equinor. Henrik Solgaard Andersen here with us. He's director for hydrogen, working on both colors, 30 years experience from hydrogen, CCS and ammonia, and he's covering the Northwest Europe region, maybe one of the more promising H2 region for the climate-friendly hydrogen. Henrik, please, what are you working on?
Thank you so much, and thank you for the invitation to present a little bit what Equinor is doing. I see a lot of people that don't have a red band. The red band is mainly Norwegians, and they are so it's good. I probably need to say a little bit about Equinor for those who are not familiar with Equinor. So we are the major oil and gas producer on the Norwegian continental shelf. We are responsible for marketing a lot of gas, and also the state's part of that gas. That means we are supplying maybe 80% of the gas to Europe. That's around over 1,000 terawatt hour of natural gas to Northwest Europe annually. So quite a huge energy amount. Of course, secure supply, affordable energy is a key driver. We need to prepare for the low carbon future, and we have a strategy. We are working on 3 pillars. One is renewable, the other one is CCS, and that is in fact the foundation for our hydrogen activities. So either renewable hydrogen or low carbon hydrogen CCS. We have been working on CO2 storage for almost 30 years, storing CO2 in saline aquifers, Norwegian continental shelf. That is the basis for low carbon hydrogen. We're now developing Northern Lights, and which are ready to start up next year. And we launched last year the development of probably one of the world's largest CO2 TNS projects, connecting Europe and Norway, 30 to 40 million tons of CO2 in a CO2 backbone from Belgium, Germany, up to the Norwegian continental shelf. In addition, we have our hydrogen portfolio, where we produce we are looking at hydrogen projects in Europe, regional projects. They are specially designed as market openers, because this is an immature, nascent market, so we cannot go big from day one. So we're doing that in Belgium, in Germany, and here in Netherlands, where our most mature project, Eemshaven, here we took at DD2 1 month ago. That means we enter into the final stage of development and aiming at an FID next year. On a longer term, we are developing a big hydrogen project in Norway called Clean Hydrogen Europe, around 1 million ton per year of hydrogen piped to the European continent through a big pipeline, aiming at starting up maybe 2030, 2031. I'm happy to participate in this panel.
Thank you very much, Henrik, and thank you for that explorative introduction. And we will turn over to Yara, and Yara Clean Ammonia, and Vibeke Rasmussen. You have a different start point, and you are working as SVP, Senior Vice President, Product Management and Certification. 3 weeks, I met you in Hanover Messe. Now I meet you here, but in the between you were in Asia.
Yes.
Please, tell us, what are you working on?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm work for Yara Clean Ammonia, which is a 100% owned subsidiary of Yara. And Yara is a global fertilizer company. And as a global company, we then are a large producer today of both hydrogen and ammonia across the globe. We actually have 17 production facilities of ammonia, and we are by far the largest shipper and transporter of ammonia, both to our own production and fertilizer assets, but also to third party. So it's from this that we are really then establishing Yara Clean Ammonia, because we see that with our expertise in ammonia to the fertilizer industry, where we use ammonia today for the nitrogen, we can also then move into new use of ammonia where it's the hydrogen in ammonia which is the key part. So we are developing projects, and we are definitely building out from our midstream where we can be a major player today with our 15 ammonia ships or carriers and our 18 ammonia terminals around the globe today. So I think one of the things that we're also doing back to Northern Lights, we have developed also a project now in our plant in the Netherlands, in Sluiskil, where we will actually liquefy ammonia or the CO2 from ammonia, liquefy that, and then store it in the Northern Lights project under the Norwegian seabed.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Vibeke. We're coming back to you again later. Horisont Energi. Bjørgulf, you used to be a colleague with Henrik, but then you suddenly found out that you started the industrial scale-up Horisont Energi with quite ambitious targets for hydrogen ammonia production, and you are also the largest receiver of IPK funding in Norway. Can you tell us about your projects and your roadmap?
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I don't want to start with saying that, repeating what Ivar-Jo said. Horisont Energi, we're a scale-up, been around for about 5 years, so we don't have any legacy in any of the old businesses. We are purely focusing on hydrogen and carbon storage. That's what we do. And in this first phase of the development of the new markets, we are focusing on blue hydrogen, and we have an early phase activity on green hydrogen, but in this phase of the business, to scale up, to go big, and to have an impact, we are focusing on the blue part. It reduces technology risk. It introduces a product at scale to a market that needs it in time for 2030. There's a lot of benefits by going blue. But I think blue has a reputation that's not as good as green. It's based on fossil energy. You need CCS to produce it. But at the same time, we can achieve a really high level of sustainability, and not sustainable as per renewable, but sustainability and environmental standards with blue. I think it's really important to understand that you can deliver on all the criteria of the taxonomy with the blue product. You can deliver a carbon footprint that equals or is better than green. So there's nothing to say about blue in terms of not being a competitive product in terms of the environmental standards. I think it's important to realize that blue is important to scale up this first part of the business, and we don't have any legacy on the interests in, maintaining the fossil industry. We are purely factually looking at how blue can transfer or transform EU into being, a hydrogen economy at the faster pace. Because we for sure will scale up in green and will gradually transition to green. But I think at this moment in time, it's really important that we embrace blue and create a system that makes it practical to transition from blue into blue and then into green without creating, hindrances. So I would say that really my key message to you today is that blue is a really good product, and we can maintain a very high standard of the product if we just set strict requirements to it.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Thank you all for your introductional remarks and views. We got all going to circle around a couple of cherry-picked topics, and starting with both Yara and Equinor, I want you to reflect a little bit on the global perspective. If you consider the availability of energy sources together with regulatory frameworks, what kind of markets, regions do you see more promising than others? If we can start with Yara, Vibeke, what's your view on that?
I think for us, we're also, I would say, agnostic to the technology pathway. I think it's important to really, the big thing here is that all sectors are looking to decarbonize. And also you need to then electrify where you can, use hydrogen where you can, and use ammonia where you can. So I think for us, it's also then looking at where do the different projects have advantages. And of course, we see now there is no secret that the US is probably moving ahead, with the IRA, and also seeing the Gulf Coast of the US, which has advantage also for CCS, or as you say, the northern parts of Europe, Norway, which has advantages. So I think for us, it's looking at the different parts in the world, where do they have different advantages for different pathways of producing hydrogen and ammonia.
Thank you. Interesting views here. US, Northern Europe, Henrik, and Equinor's official project portfolio is quite impressive. But what would you like to add on this view? How do you see it? And Europe, US, is it equal race or?
Yeah, I think everybody was very hyped up when IRA came, right? Everybody should move to US and we should do a lot of work, I think. And a lot of things will happen in the US and we have activities there. I think also they are facing some challenges. We saw the ExxonMobil announcement of the Baytown project, the biggest blue hydrogen projects. And let's have some issues on the regulations because government are turning the screws a little too hard. UK is probably a little bit undercommunicated. So UK is in fact moving ahead with some interesting CCS and hydrogen projects, putting, let's say, real money behind policy. EU is probably lagging a little bit behind. We believe they will catch up. Some of the hurdles that we are facing right now is regulatory. It's RED III, which puts some hindrances in terms of low carbon hydrogen, and also, let's say, we are still missing what we call a definition of low carbon hydrogen. So the delegated act that is under development is a very important regulatory, let's say, framework for low carbon hydrogen. That somehow defines what kind of product we can offer to the market. They are key, but at the end it's also about funding. What are the different countries putting behind the policy in terms of funding opportunities? Germany recently announced a carbon contract for difference, super important tool to kickstart low carbon projects. And in Holland, you have the SDE++ as their initiative.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. And Bjørgulf, to complement this picture, and you also touched upon in your introduction here, the delegated act, the regulatory framework, and the CO2 footprint of low carbon hydrogen. And you have been discussing this for some years, and some interesting numbers has been presented and discussed. But what can you tell us? What kind of CO2 footprint can you elaborate on, and regulation and ambitions from your side and the industry?
Yeah. So we have the first and only one world-scale blue ammonia project in Europe. And in this project, we've been focusing on delivering on the taxonomy targets since the very first day. All the taxonomy targets for for hydrogen and for clean ammonia. And in our chase of getting the best product possible, we went down to around 50 kilograms of CO2 per ton of ammonia, which corresponds to about 300 grams per ton of hydrogen. So it's 90% below the threshold or requirement of the taxonomy for low carbon hydrogen. Or we could say low carbon hydrogen, both green and blue. So I think we are at more or less one of the lowest in the market globally in terms of carbon footprint. And it's a blue project, not a green project. So I think even green projects will struggle to get down to those levels of carbon footprint. So it's also doable for large-scale blue projects to be really efficient on carbon.
Thank you. Thank you. Interesting and encouraging. So we're going to leave this global context and regulatory framework, but we're going to talk about another topic, which is also of severe interest and of severe importance. And some of these players has been operating ammonia for many years and decades, and has an interesting track record on that. But the topic is safety and security. And also Equinor made in Norway some very good highlighting the importance of this topic and gathering the industry on this through clusters and other programs. Henrik, could you tell us a little bit more? Why is safety something we should put maybe on the top of the agenda here, in addition to the climate perspective?
Yeah. First of all, safety is on a day-to-day the most important thing that drives our operation and our business, right? If we have a safety incident, it's had major consequence for people and our business. And particularly for new value chains, I think it's even more important because it can almost be existential. If we have major incidents in these new markets, it can more or less undermine the entire effort for the entire industry. So that's why we say we need to put an extra effort in on the safety aspects when we develop a new value chain. So maybe do a little bit extra, maybe it will cost a little bit extra, but we need to be sure that these value chains are working in a safe and reliable way. I think that's super important. And we have a lot of experience, both from Equinor, but you also have an industry, right? Hydrogen is not something new. We work on hydrogen for hundreds of years. So we have a lot of experience to build on, and we need to make sure that experience is coming out to all the actors and players in this new hydrogen economy, not only the big ones. So the new players, also governments and regulators who need to make sure that these assets, systems are safe to operate, right? When they approve and give you the stamp and this is okay to operate, I think that's very important.
Thank you. Vibeke, how would you complement this views from Equinor and Henrik?
Yeah, I think I copy what Henrik is saying, that safety is really important. And I think also from Yara and as a fertilizer business, we've been handling ammonia for 100 years. And we do handle both ammonia under production on the site and shipping it today. And I think it's important to take this serious when you go, because the fertilizer industry has a lot of regulations and experience, of course, of handling ammonia. But now we're moving into new sectors, new users. We're doing it in another way. There might be more, connection points where you have human technology interfaces that you need to really understand. And that's why it's really important also that we spend the time now to transfer the knowledge that is there and also do joint industry projects on safety, on getting the regulations in place, doing the measurements, doing trials and tests to see how this will work, if you have happening or interfaces with this ammonia into new users. So definitely something that is working on, I think, for the whole industry is taking this very serious.
And you're pinpointing something important, the importance of global value chains here. And on all topics here, I mean, the climate-friendly hydrogen value chains in industry is not something that we solve in Norway or in Denmark or in Germany. It is something that we evolve and solve together in partnerships. And I would like to hear your reflections on the importance of partnership and how you're working on industrial partnership as you're coming from a little bit different starting point than the others, Ivar-Jo. You have done a tremendous job. It hasn't been straight way going up, but you've been really able to engage and connect with some really interesting international partnerships.
Yeah. So I think in this creating these new markets and the new value chains, no company can do that alone. We can try, but it will be a tough job. So what we've been working with since the very first day is sort of to find different companies that want to engage in different parts of the value chain and partner up with them. So I think one of the partners that we've been able to work with, I think one important one obviously is, for us, we are owned by E.ON. E.ON is the biggest owner in the company. So E.ON is one important player in the German market as your big utility. We are working together with them. They have a role in the downstream part of the value chain. We have been working with some big terminal operators, Kohle, because you need to have infrastructure to land your ammonia in different ports of Europe. And then on the production side, we're working alongside Fertiberia, a big European fertilizer player that wants to be carbon neutral in 2035. So finding players with similar alignment and wanting to do and develop the new value chains is obviously key. Because you need the competency, like Henrik talked about, the legacy competency. You need also the competencies from the different market segments, because there are new market segments that some specialized players know very well, but where you need to introduce a new product into that market segment, how to make that fit. So I think there are a lot of angles that you need to play to find the right set of partnerships to put together your value chain.
Very good, very good. And bringing that over, okay, so the conversation has now been, by purpose, focusing more on low carbon. However, all these players also, in addition to the low carbon portfolio development, also have renewable ambitions, both for hydrogen and ammonia. And you had it also from the start. Do you still have some renewable focus in your portfolio, or is it low carbon and CCS from you, Björk, shortly?
I think shortly we focus on realizing the large-scale blue project, and then to build green based upon that. So sort of get the large scale, and then you can put green into the value chains, and then you can have achievable unit costs. So I think blue is paving the way to create scale that can add on the green. So I think that's the way we are thinking about it, but also on the long term to be able to maybe convert some of the blue assets into green ones, because it's basically the same systems. Just a small part of the system needs to be changed to go green. Ammonia synthesis is ammonia. It doesn't make any sense whether it's blue or green. Ammonia is ammonia. It's the front end that needs to be modified, and utilities are also the same.
And Henrik, the renewable division of Equinor is also strong and growing. How does the renewable pipeline look like for your colleagues and your teams?
Yes, so of course we are doing both blue and green, and we are agnostic, but we have changed a little bit our approach. So a couple of years ago, we joined some, let's say, very ambitious project, North H2 and Aquasector. We are still partner, which aim at really large scale. But we all see there is a need to probably take one step back, because it's probably a much more immature technology. So now we are approaching much more, let's say, medium scale sizes in a double 2 digits up to low 3 digits megawatt scale, basically to learn more about technology and this, let's say, how to develop a green value chain, because it's a little bit more complex than a blue, because it's not only green, it's also intermittent hydrogen. It's not operating base load. And we need to make sure we understand how to, in fact, industrialize and deploy that technology, and we need to start small to do that.
Perfect, thank you. And Vibeke, your first renewable ammonia project or hydrogen, will that be in Europe or elsewhere?
The first renewable is in Norway, and it's under commissioning at the moment, 24 megawatt. So we see that. I agree with the other gentleman here that we also see that we need blue to create scale short term, to also create new users of hydrogen and ammonia. We need scale, but we will also do renewable, and this is I think also to learn. We need to do that in steps, because we also see that with our first plant that there are still a lot of there's still a lot of issues. And the biggest thing for the large ammonia plants at the moment is that there is just not enough renewables, there is not enough grid, and there is not enough electrolyzers at the moment to do that at scale.
Perfect, thank you. And before we applaud these splendid panelists off the podium here, I will have one final challenge questions for them. I won't arrest them on it, but I might remind them on it. So, in very short manner, meaning seconds, or maybe only a number, I would like to hear from you. 10 years from now, the percentage split, considering your operational portfolio of hydrogen ammonia, the percentage split between low carbon and renewable hydrogen ammonia. What is your best guess? Percentage?
Yeah, 75-25. 75 blue.
I think I agree, but I think even higher, 80-20.
80-20, Henrik?
60-40.
60-40. Interesting. We'll pick up that question next year as well. Thank you all for joining the panel. We will now turn over to the next speaker, and it's my pleasure to invite DNV on the podium. And the DNV has a completely different role in maturing or working on the energy system, and also maturing, supporting the hydrogen economy. So we will have a status outlook of the global hydrogen economy. So please welcome Johan Kneipp to the podium. Extensive global energy experience. He is also the leader of the Hydrogen Tech Center in Groningen, and his activities is growing, which is a good sign. Thank you, Johan. Please, your presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you all. I'm working for DNV, and we are a risk management and assurance company, headquartered in Norway, but active in more than 100 countries around the world. It's quite a task to fill this, this title of an outlook of the global hydrogen economy in 7 minutes, but let's give it a try. I was thinking about giving you some insights with some key figures. Starting off with the 1.5 degrees, you might recognize it as the Paris agreements, and also last year with the COP28 in Dubai, 200 countries reconfirmed their targets that they want to aim for the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature increase, and that they need to have better and more improved goals. And if you look where we are now, coming to the 4%, it was the International Energy Agency who reported recently that only 4% of the projects we need to deliver the low emission hydrogen has come to a production. Only 4%. That means that 95%, more than 10,000 projects are still waiting in the queue with visibility and are going concept phase. We need more projects to come in online. And that's actually in line with DNV's energy transition outlook we publish yearly. We need more hydrogen. We need at least 15% hydrogen in the energy mix, and we're currently heading for about 5%. The current rate is 0.5%. We're heading for 5%, but we need to triple at least to get the energy system running at the pace we want to have it. So we have big challenges. Coming to the second line, how big is that challenges? It was the Financial Times who published an article last week which called the 9 trillion challenge. And 9 trillion is the global finance number we need to put in on yearly basis to get to the Paris Agreement levels. 9 trillion yearly. And that means 7 to 8 times more than we do now. And in that same article was a reference made to an Renewable Energy Agency report, IRENA, coming to the 1,000 gigawatt, that said in the article that we need at least 1,000 gigawatt yearly to come to that level we want to have. And that 1,000 gigawatt yearly brings us from the 4,000 we have now up to the 10,000 into 2030. And then the closing number, 73%. Within DNV, we do on regular basis interview energy experts to get a little bit of the temperature of the market. And that's what we did in February and January last year as well, surveying 1,000 energy experts. And they stated that 73%, that's the key figure of this report, 73% of the energy professionals still believe that there is a long-term, that we can achieve the long-term goal, and they have trust in future. Although we see some delay and we see some uncertainty, 73% still believes that we are on track on long-term. So together we have to transform through this uncertainty, which is actually the title of our Industry Insight report, which is downloadable from our website. Which brings me to my second slide. About hydrogen value chains. What can be successful and how are we currently working on that? Key for that is standardization and innovation and working together. We need to think about long-term transport. Will it be ammonia or will it be pipelines with hydrogen? About cheap electricity, cheap renewable electricity from areas where there is an abundance of renewable power. We need to leverage offshore wind power and bring that to shore, and hydrogen might be a solution for that. And we need to produce synthetic and e-fuels for hard-to-abate sectors like the aviation. That's all challenges we're facing currently. And we at DNV, we see all those challenges in the industry. And on a regular basis, we start the so-called joint industry projects, where we bring together energy knowledge and bring together parties. On a yearly basis, we start about 30 of those projects. And I give you a few of the subjects we're currently having in those industry projects, which is also an answer to the question, what needs to be done to get this value chains into position? We need to have more transparency on the performance of electrolyzers, midterm and long term. We need to understand how ammonia can be a fuel for end-user segments like the maritime sector and the power generation sector. We need to understand how we can switch industrial end users from natural gas to hydrogen safely and effectively. We need to do work on proper custody transfer. We need to measure correctly along the full value chain to support international trade, bunkering operations, and end-user billing processes. We need to know how to qualify and assure safe operation of salt caverns to store hydrogen. And we need to know how we're going to repurpose and requalify existing natural gas pipelines. And all these questions I'm just addressing are topics we are currently setting up joint industry projects or running joint industries projects together in cooperation with all the partners. To close off for today, as DNV, we recognize the challenges ahead, and we are optimistic about the technology. Trust is the key enabler to bring the business to success, and we believe that thorough cooperation in this type of projects will tackle that global transformation we're facing together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johan. Thank you, Johan. The technology centers you have around the world, we touched on a little bit. What is the activity, and what are you kind of doing more of now than 6 months ago?
We have 6 of those technology centers around the world, all with their own specialism on material, on safety, on the product. And what we see now, there's a lot of attention on switching industrial end users like ceramics and glass and steel from natural gas to hydrogen, and understand how that process works, and also can comply with European NOx emission limits. And we see a lot of questions about correct measurements, custody transfer, trade, selling stuff, that kind of things are much more important for as well green hydrogen as the blue hydrogen value chain and the CCS value chain.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much
for taking the stage with us.
Thank you.
We are closing in, but we have some really interesting final presentation here. And yes, again, it has been a lot of low carbon. And if you look at volume, there is a number of projects in Norway where the volumes comes with blue or low carbon hydrogen. There is a very interesting pipeline of renewable or green hydrogen. And it's most of them, in fact. And there is many stakeholders with thorough industry experience working on them, and we also made some very interesting wins in the European context, with Fuela winning a big win in the European Hydrogen Bank. Congratulations to them, but also Fortescue Future Industries, large global actor, also made win last year in the European Innovation Fund. However, local use and roadmap for hydrogen is also important, and I'm glad to invite Axel Klafstad to this podium to present the work of Green H and how they work on local production and offtake in Norway. Please, Axel.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivar-Jo, for letting us have a few minutes on stage. See, there's a timer ahead of me, so I'll try and rush through my 150 slides in 5 minutes. So, my name is Axel Klafstad. I'm the head of business development in Green H, and I'm going to take you through a little bit on who is Green H and what do we do, and why I'm sharing this with you. So who is Green H? We are an industrial producer of hydrogen. We will develop, build, own and operate production facilities for green hydrogen, and we will bunker it to ships via either swappable containers or our own developed direct bunkering solution. And we aim to offer both compressed and liquid hydrogen for the future market, depending on the demand. We have a business model where we say we believe in local production for local consumption. The key reason for this is that transport of hydrogen is expensive and complex, and we wish to produce the hydrogen as close to the end users as possible to make it hassle-free. And we are primarily aiming to fuel ships, which I will be calling our facilities. And in addition to this, when you take water and electricity into an electrolyzer, you get oxygen and heat. And we have a big strategy and a big aim to utilize these excess byproducts. This, combined with the reduction and elimination of transport, makes our hydrogen competitively priced, and combined with a relatively, sober size of the facilities to begin with, we can start today. We don't have to wait for the scaled market in 2040. And we are developing a network of maritime hubs across Norway to make hydrogen available nationwide to maritime sector, but also to other key sectors such as mobility on land or hard-to-abate industry. And here is an example of how we create the symbiosis from our projects. It's about so much more than just the hydrogen supply to the ships. For those of you who are not familiar with the Norwegian geography, this is Bodø, one of the northernmost cities in Norway. And Bodø port has 10,000 port calls per year, but around 400 trucks made more than 5,000 visits to Bodø. Most of these trucks are long distance and are ideal for hydrogen. Bodø is also the end station for the North Norway railway line, where there are multiple cargo and passenger trains that are leaving every single day. Today, the railway is running on diesel. It's an obvious no-brainer for hydrogen. District heating is a big potential in Bodø. The current district heating grid runs around 100 meters from our facility. And in addition to this, Bodø municipality are currently working to move the airport 800 meters to open up new areas for industry and city developments, which can run on district heating. Aquaculture is a massive industry in Norway, and North of Norway is no exception. There are more than 500 different localities that utilize oxygen. It's now being shipped from south of Norway or Sweden, and by having the production happen here in Bodø, we can eliminate between 30 and 500 kilometers of transport. So this is excellent. These are excellent examples of how a hydrogen factory can be a catalyst for green industry. And of course, there's the zero emission travel. Bodø is the main hub for North of Norway's aviation, with more than 35,000 plane movements and 1.7 million passengers transitioning through every year. And for my final slide, I want to talk a little bit about, the one that made it all happen, the one that made it all possible, the Westfjord Ferry. A little bit of background for those of you who don't know this. This was a state tender where the Norwegian government set the requirement that the fuel has to be hydrogen. This is one of the toughest ferry crossings in the world. It's a 4-hour crossing, and it is the lifeline of people living in Lofoten coming to Norway, to Bodø. Both ships will be built in Norway, and we will take renewable Norwegian electricity and water to create the green fuel for this ferry. And some of the main ripple effects from this is, of course, the 26,500 tons of CO2 emissions that are being reduced. It is the value creation in Bodø. Around 60% of the investments are with Norwegian suppliers, and between 400 and 800 full-time equivalents will be created from this establishment. Half of them will be in the Bodø region. So this is a fantastic catalyst for employment and future industries. And at least the last one is the catalyst for the green industry. We saw on the last slide all the possible effects from hydrogen, and this one project is what will make it happen. The one key takeaway is that politics works. The main reason this is happening is because the politicians dare to say hydrogen is the answer. So now we see politics works, and we need to see more of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Axel. Thank you. And that Westfjord project is very interesting in terms of not talking about only grants, but other funding mechanisms to enable maritime offtake for and green hydrogen. The next presenter and pitcher is Norwegian Hydrogen. They have shown a very interesting track record on attracting foreign and international investors, and has partnered with several governments in Northern Europe to enable their hydrogen value chain. And we will learn more about their work from Marielle Furnes Manseth. Please, Marielle.
Thank you. Hi. Norwegian Hydrogen is dedicated to driving the global energy transition through the development, ownership, and operation of green hydrogen infrastructure. We believe that green hydrogen is one of the most powerful enablers of industry and mobility decarbonization, and we're on a mission to make green hydrogen accessible everywhere. We are developing and operating green hydrogen infrastructure, primarily serving heavy-duty transport, industry, and maritime sectors. And we are opening production and delivering to our customers as we speak. We are establishing a comprehensive network of production facilities, distribution systems, and refueling stations across the Nordics, specifically designed to meet the growing demand for zero-emission energy across various mobility and industrial segments. And I have to mention that we recently secured almost 20 million euros in EU funding for 2 large projects in the Nordics, including both production and refueling stations in the Nordics. Our strong industrial owners, including Fortescue, Mitsui, Hexagon Purus, and others, provide us with industrial experience, strategic insights, network, and market reach. This ownership structure really allows us to drive the Nordic strategy, working together to create an integrated hydrogen economy that addresses regional needs for zero-emission energy. Our head office is in Ålesund, Norway. We have also offices in Oslo, Stockholm, Copenhagen, and Helsinki. So we're truly a Nordic company. So, we are establishing this network of green hydrogen production facilities across the Nordics. Our first 2 plants will open very soon, one in Hellesylt, Norway, dedicated to enabling zero emissions in the World Heritage Fjord of Geiranger. As one of the first and very few production sites of green hydrogen in Norway, it will serve a larger area in the first years though. Simultaneously, we're opening our first plant in Denmark. This is in Gjøring, where the Grønbind project, co-located with Grøngass, will harness wind energy and upgrade biogas with hydrogen to produce clean fuel for the German transport market. We have already produced our first molecules in Denmark as a test production, and we will open both our first production plants in very short time, in just a few months. Our subsidiary, Virion, is leading the way in providing high-capacity hydrogen refueling stations for heavy-duty trucks across the Nordics. Virion's network of stations will provide reliable, clean hydrogen fuel along the key road networks in the Nordics. The first station will open already this year. Next year, we have several planned, and our ambition is to have over 50 stations opened by 2030, making Virion the leading hydrogen refueler in the region. We have been working very closely with transportation companies and OEMs in strategic partnerships to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together. And we are happy to see that we are now accelerating the introduction of hydrogen-powered heavy-duty transportation in the Nordics. It's happening now. To sum it all up, Norwegian Hydrogen is committed to accelerating the journey towards zero emissions by developing an integrated value chain across the Nordics. Our roadmap includes reaching 1 gigawatts of electrolysis capacity while strategically expanding Virion's refueling network. So, let's do this together. Let's cooperate. Looking forward to connect with you all. Let's drive the energy transition forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Marielle. Thank you, Marielle. And an excellent time management. Excellent time management. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking this part in this session here. You have, through various deliveries, keynote, panel perspective, presentation, and pitches, got some glimpses and snapshots on the development for the Norwegian value chain in Norway and elsewhere in the world. However, we have a very interesting pavilion over in the other hall with a lot of other stakeholders pioneering both low carbon and renewable hydrogen in Europe and other places in the world. So please come and visit us and talk to us for bilateral talks. And we have a stand party opening in just a couple of minutes. So there you will have some light refreshments and also the opportunity to taste other beers and minerals from Norway. So from all of us and from the podium, thank you for joining this session. Looking forward with bilateral talks later on, and have some really interesting and good days in Rotterdam and the Netherlands. Great pleasure seeing you here. Thank you.